onto the book itself, right? We know that in the first few verses we see that God asked Jonah to go preach to a specific city, but he refused and he fled. So, to explain what exactly happened, right? We know he spent 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of a fish or of a whale. If we look at chapter 2 and verse 2, it reads, "And said, I cried my reason of mine affliction unto the Lord, and he heard me out. Out of the belly of hell cried I, and thou heardest my voice." So we know that Jonah was actually in hell. All right? And we know that further because in verse 6 we see here, "I went down to the bottoms of the mountains, the earth with her bars." And we know that, hell has been described as having gates. Sometimes, like we hear that there are the gates of hell. So the bars could be representative of the gates. So that's further proof that Jonah was in hell. So we know why he was in hell, because of what he did, how he fled from the Lord and disobeyed him. But we see in verse 7, it says, "When my soul fainted within me, and I remembered the Lord, and my prayer came unto me into thine holy temple. They that observe lying vanities forsake their own mercy, but I will sacrifice unto thee with the voice of thanksgiving. I will pay that I have vowed. Salvation is of the Lord." And the Lord spake unto the fish, and it vomited out Jonah upon the dry land. So we see here that he put his pride aside, and he was willing to do what was right for God and what was right for the city. Okay? Because initially he didn't want to do it. He didn't want to go be a preacher. He didn't want to go be a prophet. He didn't want to look like a crazy person, right? Imagine someone God telling you to go preach to the people of your city and make a prophecy to them, right? You wouldn't want to do it because you'd look mad. Okay, so he was punished for not obeying God and fleeing from him. But once he was able to put his own pride aside and have mercy for others, he was spat out of the whale, or he was released from hell. And we see also that in the further verses in chapter 3, that he would preach to the city itself. He did what God asked him to do, and he was able to properly warn them and also convert them to God, right? So we see here, it says, "And Jonah began to enter into the city a day's journey, and he cried and he said, Yet 40 days, and Nineveh shall be overthrown. So the people of Nineveh believed God, and proclaimed a fast, and put on sackcloth, from the greatest of them even to the least of them. For the word came unto the king of Nineveh, and he arose from the throne, and he laid the robe from him, and covered him with sackcloth and ashes." Let's go to verse 8. "But let man and beast be covered with sackcloth, and cry mightily unto God. Yea, let them turn every one from this evil way, and from the violence that is in their hands." We know from Jonah 1 and verse 2, it reads, "Arise, go to Nineveh, the great city, and cry against it, for their wickedness is come up before me." So again, God wanted him to go preach to them about their wickedness, but he refused. He was put in hell. He put aside his pride and showed them mercy. He went to preach to them, and he was able to save them. As we see in verse 10, it says, "And God saw their works, that they turned from their evil ways, and God repented of evil, and he had said that he would do unto them, and he did it not." So he didn't end up destroying the city. So we see how much we could achieve just by putting aside our pride and having mercy for the sake of others, right? And obviously, the 3 nights and 3 days in hell is in reference, of course, to Jesus, who also spent 3 days and 3 nights in hell. But it's also a reference to us when we reject God and reject what he has intended for us. and we don't help others, we don't try to get others saved, right? We could be really punished, right? We wouldn't be cast into hell necessarily, but we could still be very punished if we don't do our proper duty as Christians and save other people as well. Just your one voice could do so much for so many people. You just have to be willing to do it.